Good evening and welcome to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation. I am Donna Greatbanks. I am your host, and our special guests today are the ladies from Volume 5, Writing Our Lives, a Southern Storytellers Anthology, Iris M. Williams, Jonelle Grace Lipscomb, and Audra Walker. Please, ladies, welcome to Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation. Thank you for being here this evening.
Thank you for inviting us.
Zoom In on a Fresh Conversation is brought to you by Iris Diamonds LLC, Lee's Press, Milton McCulloch, author of Love and Emancipation, and a Dante production, who will feature dueling saxophones on July 16th at 2 p.m. at Cinematique on Beach Street. Please be there. It's going to be a great, great concert. The dates for the Fresh Book Festival are February 22, 23, 24, in the year of 2024 in the beautiful city of Daytona Beach. Registration will open August 1st. Please look out for that. We are so excited about our 13th year in the industry. And so thank you for all who have been there, and thank you for all who will be coming new to the festival. If you have any questions for the ladies, please leave them in the chat room. And this conversation is being recorded. Thank you, ladies, for being here. So I'm going to go for you, Audra, first. And please give us just a brief background.
Well, I am 56 years old, I think. 56, going on 57. I've been writing since I was 11 years old, but I've never really published anything. I've written, publications as I was a college instructor. I've written factual or journals for the college, but nothing that I would call inspiring.
If you write, that's an inspiration. I'm just saying.
It is an inspiration, but it's not inspiring to the average reader. Let's put it that way. It's technical, and a lot of people aren't in that field, so it's not like it would be interesting to them. I am also a grandmother of 3, a mother of 3, and a minister at my church.
Okay, and where are you from?
I am from Pittsburgh, born and raised. Born and raised.
Homewood? Wilkinsburg.
Yeah, I grew up in Penn Hills.
I went to school in Penn Hills.
I graduated from Penn Hills in 1984. Yep. Yes, ma'am.
I must know your family. I'm sure we were in different grades, of course, but I think I integrated Penn Hills High School.
I'm a daughter of ministers.
Yeah.
So that was that's my stomping grounds.
Yeah.
I ventured out in life. I went to school I went to Kearney University
in Philadelphia.
And then I came back and went to Carlow, and so I've gotten 2 degrees from Carlow. But my life at this point is inspiring others through health challenges, because I've had quite a few of my own. 2 strokes in 2015 on the same day. It took almost 5 years for me to recover. Never thought I would, because they were pretty damaging. And then just recently had to have a back surgery because I was not able to walk too well. But God is good. If you leave it in His hands, it always works out for your good and His glory. So that's my testimony. That's how I live. And I'm in the midst of writing a book. I know Janis can't wait till I'm done, because we've been on this journey for quite some time.
Right.
But I promised it would be this year. So this year is the goal.
Well, we'll have to talk offline, because Walker, your maiden name or your married?
That's my married name. My maiden name was McClure.
McClure. Yeah. Okay, we'll talk offline, because know there wasn't that many of us in at that time, so we had to have crossed paths one day, one way or the other at some point. Okay, Jonelle, you're next. Give us a little bit of history. Yes.
My background is actually in the theater arts. I went to the University of Arkansas and University of Georgia, and I studied acting and directing and playwriting. I have lived most of my life in Fayetteville, Arkansas, which is where I live now. But I lived a short stint. I moved from St. Louis to Eureka Springs, Arkansas, when I was 6. My grandparents raised me. And I also left for a brief time to Oklahoma, to Tulsa, and to University of Georgia down in Athens, and a year up in Connecticut. And other than that, I've lived in Fayetteville. So
Wow.
I have, I'm married. I just had my 20th anniversary last Wednesday, and that was fun. We went down to Mount Magazine State Park. I'd never been there before. So, and we had lunch the next morning in Paris,
Oh,
Paris,
wow.
Arkansas.
Oh, you guys did some traveling, but not you take the jet.
I have 3 grandchildren, and I love visiting with them and spending time with them. And I basically, when I moved back to Arkansas after attending University of Georgia, I worked as a teaching artist with the Arkansas Arts Council, and
Okay.
I worked with different organizations through them, like Walton Arts Center and Arts Live Theater, Ozark Stage Works. And then I went into public school teaching for the last 14 years of my career at Fayetteville High School, teaching drama and filmmaking. And then I retired in 2014. And that's when I really started writing prose, both fiction and nonfiction. So
And
that's
so
how
you do have books.
I have some other stories that have been published.
Okay.
I'm working on I'm working on a novel. I think we talk about that later on, but
Right, right.
I am working on a novel and some other things right now. This is my 4th time to be published in the anthologies. So
Wow.
that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a hard nut right there. Those ladies don't play,
No.
So yeah, we're all very grateful to be part of the anthologies, and for you to be there 3 times. Yeah, you do a pretty good job, I'm sure. I'm sure. I haven't read the whole book yet. Has everybody read the whole book? I haven't read.
Perfect.
You have? No, I
Yeah.
haven't read the whole book yet. So as soon as I get a minute, I will. So thank you, Jonelle. And so Iris, you're up next. Just a brief background about yourself.
Okay, so yes, I'm Iris. I am a native of Arkansas, but I have lived in Indiana, Texas, Arizona, North Carolina, and I have always loved words, whether reading or writing them. I can remember I was a little girl and I was writing all over my bed, and I got in lots of trouble about that. So as
Right.
soon as I could start writing on paper, I just took to it. I have 2 children, 5 grandchildren. I am divorced, and I attended University of Arkansas at Little Rock as an accounting major. And my comp teachers, she was like, "Why?" And
Why are you in this class?
right. And I told her because I'm from a very small town, Holly Grove in Arkansas, and I had no idea that writing was anything more than a hobby. I didn't know you could do anything with it. And so I switched to technical writing just to be safe, But as life happened, and it just took forever for me to get my degree, which is probably a good idea because I did eventually switch over to English and creative writing and got a bachelor's degree in that. And it was the best thing ever. It just kind of gave me the confidence to move forward with where my passion was. And so that propelled me to my purpose, which I found in North Carolina when I interned with a publisher out there. And being in that creative environment just, kickstarted everything. And I started a company there. And when I came back here in 2014, life just took a whole new turn. And if you would have asked the little 6-year-old girl who was shy and wouldn't talk to people and just wanted to blend into the background, if she would be doing this, she'd have been like, "No, and I will not ever." So,
It's amazing how we all have stories about being younger and writing.
mhm.
I remember writing in the closet, right? Because there were 500 people who live in one house, and so you only had one little space to be to yourself, and it happened to be a closet with a pull down light. And I never knew that it would take me these many years to get back to where
Yeah.
you started, but those years are good years.
They are good years.
Um,
Yes.
and there are a lot of people who are very, very famous who have made their wealth past the age of 60. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
counting on that.
Me
Counting
too.
on that.
Me
So
too.
as we move forward, Iris, the first question is going to come to you because you have many books now that I found out. The one that I found on the internet is a children's book, The
Yes.
Purple Butterfly and the Blue Bear. Tell us about that. And ladies, we'll be back to you. Go ahead.
Okay. So that story, I love children's books. I've written some other ones, but the ones that are near and dear to my heart are the children's books because I just, as a child growing up in a, children are to be seen, not heard environment, I just feel like children need words to
A
go
voice.
with what they're feeling, And so the books that I've written, they're all from some type of experience that I've had either with my grandchildren or me personally. And so with this book, it's about, the butterfly, she's trying to be friends with the bear and he's just not having it, And so she's trying and trying and trying. And he's just like, no, 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 no. And so just as she's about to give up, he decides to open up and tell her why he's being so difficult. And once she finds out why he's being so difficult, then they're able to form a friendship. And so the whole book is about communication and that it's okay to be different. And that if you talk to, each other, you will find a common ground. So.
Well, that's one. Tell us about the rest.
Okay, so I have a book called Frankie, Froggy, and the Butterfly Birthmark. That's for my granddaughter.
Copy you can show us?
I don't here.
Okay, it's okay.
It's another one called Jordan, Mac, and the Mustard Seed. That's also for my grandson. Did My Daddy Leave Me? That's another granddaughter. Nana's Maya, that's another granddaughter. I have a book called Queenie. It's about me when I was a kid and how my brother used to always tease me and say, do you think you're a queen? Do you think you're a queen? And I would be like, no, I'm nobody, and that followed me. But later I figured out he saw something in me that I didn't see.
Right. Isn't that funny? Yeah.
It is very funny. How Meg likes her eggs. Meg, whoever she's with, she likes the eggs that they like, but
okay.
in the book, she has to figure out, well, how does she like her eggs, my very first book that was published is called Reddy and Bluey Nursery Rhymes. And I actually wrote a poem for a local artist. She made all the images and then she just selected each one of us to write a poem for that. So those are some of them. I also wrote one called Cancer, Are You Listening? I did that one for St. Jude. I'm a Cancer, and so my zodiac sign is the 6-9, and so I turned that zodiac sign around and made it like the face of the little boy. So
okay.
Yeah, so those are those are my.
Did you have a hard time finding an illustrator?
It is not. At first it was.
Yeah.
But now I have.
Well, we've progressed, right?
Yes. And you learn so much by doing things wrong. So I have learned, and I have some great illustrators in my little repertoire, and I'm grateful for them. I wish I could draw because it would save me a lot of money.
Cannot draw at all.
Oh, so that's it.
Cannot draw at all. Okay, Jonelle, you're on deck, so you're next. So what made you decide to take a chance and add more of your writing skills by submitting the stories for you to the anthology?
Well, I think the same thing that made me feel like I could submit to the other anthologies that came before. I met this. I think of it as my read, write, share family, because I met Janis and all the wonderful women that are associated with that organization and that group, and I felt safe with them. I felt like if my work needed some changing, I believe that they could tell me how to do that. And the feedback and support they give is always amazing. So I think it's just the environment of that group of women, and it's mostly women. We have some men too, but it's mostly women, and there's just a lot of love that comes out of that group. So
it's easy to say yes.
It was easy to say yes. It was easy to take a chance because you knew even if someone let you down, they'd have their arms around you when you fell.
Oh, nice. Very, very nice. Audra, I'm going to ask you the same question. Come on deck. What made you
Well,
decide to take a chance and add more to your writing skills by submitting a story to the anthology?
the long and short of it was COVID.
Okay.
During COVID, I had been sequestered before because of my stroke, not being able to get out. But I thought it was going to be like the same way, but it wasn't. It was totally different. And I start pulling out things that I had written years ago and just going through all my paperwork, trying to figure out what can I do to keep my mind from being fried. And I started working on my book. And then I got an email from Janis about the Southern Anthology. And I'm like, whoa, that might be something that will give me more encouragement, because I had hit, I don't know if any of you have done this, but you hit a roadblock because you get to a certain point and something really had happened that really threw me off my course of writing. And it wasn't a good thing. It was a bad thing that happened. And I had to process it because it was actually going to be a part of the book. But what had happened at that time took me over the edge. So I had to stop writing because I between tears and the anger, I couldn't put two words together. So then I said, oh, this might be something challenging because of the question.
Yeah.
And because of the storm of COVID, all of us were in a storm in COVID. It wasn't like no one was suffering from it. And if somebody says, oh, I came through it fine, either they're lying or they didn't realize they were in a storm. But either way, I knew I was in a storm. So I sat down and actually wrote the article or the piece and submitted it, not ever expecting it to be accepted, to be honest. I just
Right. I
thought,
did too. I was like, let me just get it off my chest.
to me,
Yeah.
it was going to be something that I experienced.
Right.
And even though I knew this wasn't going to be the only one ever, I just said, well, if I don't get accepted this time, I can
Right.
work towards it for the next time.
Right.
Lo and behold, I get the email and I literally almost fell off my chair at my computer thinking, how did this happen?
I know.
And I'm still kind of shocked, because to see your name printed on the bottom of a book and then see your article in the book is something like, I mean, I was anticipating what it would be like when I finished my own book, but thinking of all the pieces that have to be done, I was overwhelmed. So, but I'm back to writing, thank God. And hopefully by the end of the year, I think I've changed it from autobiography because there's just too much.
Right.
Because it was a huge chunk that I thought I was going to be able to do, only to realize now I've got to break that down in pieces or I'll be mentally unsettled for a long time. So I've broken it down. So I'm going to do a memoir of my childhood and then work my way up. So yeah,
Do
that's
you have
why
a copy of the book right there?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Could you show the audience? Writing Our Lives, a Southern Storytellers Anthology, Volume 5. Thank you so much. I love that cover.
And I gave a copy to my pastor.
Oh, okay.
Because I've been charged with starting a writing group in my church.
Okay.
And I got sick before we could get started in January. So when I came back, now that I'm back, they're like, when are you starting? So I have to work on the pieces that I had left off at. And so it's a writing ministry. So starting a writing ministry. And it all stemmed from when Janis came to introduce her book about Mahalia Jackson. And I owe a debt of thanks to Janis for everything she's helped me with over the years. And she's such a wonderful person.
We all owe Janis a debt. We all do. Thank you so much for that. And so, Iris, come on deck. Thank you very much. Audra. Iris, say something so you can come on camera.
Oh, hello.
There you go.
You lost me?
No. You have to say something because it's on speaker mode, right?
Oh,
so you have to say something in order to come on deck.
Oh, okay.
What made you decide to take a chance and add the anthology to your writing? Were you in any of the other books?
I am in a few of the others. I am.
You're gonna have to mute yourselves, ladies.
We know that
you have to mute yourself, Audra.
I'm trying.
Okay.
Sorry.
It's all right. Okay, Iris, come back on deck.
Okay, yeah, so with the Read Write Share, I'm actually a co-founder, and so for me, I like to support what I ask other people to support, you know, and so I just feel like it's another way for me to share my story and my testimony and to reach people that I probably otherwise wouldn't reach. And so when Janis, when we talked about the theme and came up with COVID-19, I thought this is another perfect theme, because so much happened during that time, and so I learned so much. And so it was a no-brainer. I was going to step back to allow others, because the
Right.
slots are limited, but when we had a slot come open, and she would ask me if I would submit something. Of course, I said yes to Janis. So
Of course. Does anybody say no to Janice? I don't know too many people say no to that. I guess I'm gonna make this easier for everybody. I'm gonna put you back on gallery so we all can kind of just chat together. And so I wrote about my spiritual growth in healing through COVID-19. So briefly tell us, Jonelle, what did you write about? Don't tell us the story because we want everybody to buy a copy of the book, but just give us a brief background about what you felt and what you wrote about.
Well, the most significant thing that I experienced during the pandemic was the death of my brother. And so that's what I wrote about. Ironically enough, 2 anthologies ago, I had written a story called Tommy and Me about our relationship. And so we had really started to get close right before the pandemic. And then when the pandemic hit, we were sort of separated in a way. And so I felt this tremendous loss because, I mean, there was just something so estranged about that whole period. And there was
Because you couldn't be in contact,
yes.
nobody could travel. Okay, I'm with you.
And so I still had questions that I had never asked him, that because it was difficult for him to talk about some things. And so I just went into this room, I call it our antique room, one night, and I just imagined that he was in there with me and I was having a conversation with him. And I asked him questions, and I answered as I felt like
You would.
how
Yeah.
he would answer me. And then I wrote the story based on that. So
Was it hard for you to keep to the writing count? I had a hard time keeping.
it's always hard for me to keep to the writing count. To the word count, you mean?
Yeah, the word
And
count.
I usually write too much, and I usually write not enough, and then I write too much, and then I finally whittle it to where it works the best. But I had started a different draft of it that was much longer, but I had sort of braided several different versions together. And this one, when I finally reached it, that I felt like I'd finally found where I wanted the story to go. So
were you surprised when you got the email?
I wasn't totally surprised, but I was so excited that
Pleasantly surprised.
Yes, that I don't know, I guess I'd had an indication that Janis had thought the story was a strong one, but it's still, I keep all those emails because there's something really special about when you.
It is.
Yeah, and it makes up for the ones you get that say sorry.
Yeah.
When you get one that says yes, it just, it makes you feel like you've really accomplished something. So
Because there were so many entrants into it, right? I thought there's just no way, because all of these magnificent writers are. And so, yeah, when you get the email, you're like, what? Yay. I think I put a little star by it, and then I copied it and put it in my personal file.
And when you get it in your hands, it's even
Mhm.
more exciting.
Oh,
So.
yeah, I was really excited when it came through the mail. Thank you, Janice, very, very much for that. It is actually over there on my reading stand. I could try to read a little bit every night. I just got mine not too long ago, so I keep it there so I can make sure I get through it. And so thank you, Jonelle. Audra, unmute yourself and tell us a little bit about, I talked about my journey of having COVID and being in the hospital for, I don't know, 6 or 7 days. Tell us about how you wrote about your experience. We love you, Audra. Telling you. Unmute yourself. You want Iris to go next.
Hello.
Yes. Can't unmute. Okay. Well, you're going to stop you there. And we're going to go to Iris.
Okay.
And Iris, so tell us about what you wrote about.
So for me, COVID was very scary. It was very reminiscent of 9/11. But the difference this time was I lived alone. And so with being isolated, I was further, further alone. And then I ended up having to have surgery, unexpected emergency surgery. And,
During COVID?
yes. And so, of course, well, it was
man.
2022, so we were kind of coming off of it, but there were still the restrictions of visitors and all that type of stuff, all of that. And, I say that I have faith, I proclaim it. And it's one thing to say it and another thing to exercise it. And so during that whole time, I had to learn to rely on what I knew versus what I felt. And so that's what my story, my COVID submission was about, is how I kind of lost myself a little bit. And then thanks to an awesome physician and an even more awesome chaplain, I found myself. So, and it just
And
made
so
all.
how difficult was it to have surgery during COVID? That had to be.
It was very difficult. It was scary because I drove myself to the ER that morning, and that evening they had already decided they were going to do surgery. So no one was there with me the whole time. And then my daughter, funny thing, she had gotten COVID earlier that week, and I thought I had COVID, but then she started to feel better, and I was not feeling better. So I was like, something's not right. Why am I not feeling better? And so she couldn't come to the hospital, and it was just a big, it was an ordeal. I felt just alone, like I was just by myself, and so then when the chaplain helped me and my faith kicked in, I realized I'm never alone. Even though I felt like that, I'm not. And that just changed the whole trajectory of everything that happened afterward. And I even wrote a children's book about them. I forgot to say that one. That one was called Leroy, Loving Leroy, because the surgery was, I had to have part of my colon removed, and they placed an ostomy. And so I called my ostomy Leroy. And it was just about me making friends with Leroy, because prior to that, it was just, I couldn't put the appliance on. It hurt, all of these things. But once I made friends with it, smooth sailing. And I'm so blessed to say that Leroy went away.
Yes, he's gone.
But I got that story out of it. So
Yeah. COVID and having been in the hospital during COVID was a very scary thing, and you did have to call on your faith to know that. And I know that there were people there that weren't being treated quite right.
yes.
And who were saying, well, they're too far gone. What? Who makes that decision that they're too far gone, right? But that's stuff that you hear in the hallway, and so it was difficult. So Audra, tell us what you wrote about.
Well, mine started with trying to identify who I was.
Okay.
So actually, it went pre-COVID back to my stroke days, because I was just coming through that recovery and I still didn't know who I was, because I've always identified by what I did for a living. So I was a database administrator, I was a data analyst, I was all these things that had to do with the computer. So when people would ask me who I was, it would be my name and what I did for a living. Even though I'm a grandmother, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I didn't identify with those things because I didn't have my own identity. I was just my job. And so, of course, I had to leave my job. And then as I'm coming through thinking everything's going to be hunky-dory now, I'm going to get back to my life, COVID struck. February 19th, I'll never forget, Pittsburgh was shut down. We were told we couldn't leave our homes. We couldn't do this, that, or the other. And we had to wear these masks.
And you guys were shut down for, Florida was crazy, but
we were shut down for about
you
3
were
or 4
shut down a
months.
long time.
Yeah. So at first, in my sanctified imagination, I said, oh, this is nothing, because it'll be just like when I was home for the stroke. No, it wasn't the same, because then I at least could go out and eat. I could go to my doctor's appointments, but everything was shut down. You couldn't go to the drugstore. You couldn't go grocery shopping. You had to do all your appointments via video chat and Zoom, and church meetings were held via Zoom. And it was just a mess. And I felt my spiritual side of me was being depressed. Then I got depressed. Then I got to the point where I couldn't cope. And the one thing that kind of pushed me over the edge, and to this day, I wish I had never seen it, was when George Floyd got murdered. Yeah. And the reason, when I saw it, I had a nervous breakdown. Literally, they had to take me to the hospital. And that was when I realized I have to figure out who I am, because I'm not all of these things. I have to find out who I am. So my whole piece is surrounding how I found out who I was, how I define myself now. And I've taken them through several characters from the Bible. Well, I should say women from the Bible who I identify with.
Well, so there's only 122 in the Bible, right? There's 122.
Well, there's a whole bunch of them, but God led me to the ones that He identifies me by. So that's what you'll find in the book. I won't say who they are. You have to read it to find out.
Isn't that funny? There's 122 women in the Bible, and I think the one that's called out first is Lot's wife. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I thought to myself the other day, what? Why was she called out when she's doing something you ain't supposed to do? Don't turn around. Don't turn around. But you're going to turn around anyway, right? So,
that's called the temptation.
I wondered about that. There's 122 of us. Now you want to talk about her.
But you also have to remember she equates with Eve.
Yes, that's
Think
right.
about it. So they're parallel. They're parallel.
Yeah. That's too funny. Anyway, thank you for that. And so, Jonelle, tell me when you write. Do you write in the middle of the night, in the morning, after your coffee? Tell me, Jonelle. Yeah, you. You don't have to unmute yourself anymore.
Oh, I don't.
No.
Okay. I write whenever I can find the time to write. Okay. I mean, I adapt to whether it's in the evening or whether it's in the morning. I try to, the one thing that I've noticed that I enjoy writing the most is after I go for a walk. Because when I go for a walk, I write in my head. I was doing that the other day, and I ran into my husband. He had walked a different direction than I had, and he said, "How's it going?" I said, "Fine. I'm writing in my head." And then I come back and I can write it. I can write it down. But I don't know. I've always been that way. That's where I figure things out, is when I'm walking, and I sometimes write cards, that tell me how I see where something's going. I don't really,
okay.
I have an idea of a direction like an outline would give you, but I find that I sort of steer away from that when I'm writing. And I tend to like to write directly on the computer. That took me a long time to do because I always wrote in longhand at first. And that's kind of my process is I have an idea of where I'm going, but I do detours, and I end up it's always amazing to me because I wonder sometimes, and you all are probably the same way when you're writing, you wonder where it's coming from. I
I
mean,
don't question it anymore. I used to. I just,
it comes out your face.
because I read my books and I'm thinking,
It's
who wrote
magic.
that? Yeah. Yeah. It's a gift.
Well,
And
it's
after you're walking, your endorphins are up, your mind is really clear. And so that's probably a good time to write.
that's what works best for me. So
Yeah. What about you, Iris? When do you write?
I'm definitely a morning person. My brain starts to shut down around 5 o'clock because
Like
it's just,
now?
this is
What
exciting.
time is it there?
It's nearly 8. It's 7:40 here. But this is exciting for me. So I'm just like, go.
Yeah.
But what does it for me is water. Whether it's raining, I'm in the shower, taking a bath,
Yeah.
it get bombarded. And so I've learned when it comes as fast as I can to write it down, because as fast as it comes, as fast as it'll leave. But I have woken up out of my sleep with something and put it in my phone real quickly. That's rare. But I'm a morning person, and I have to get it out when it comes, otherwise it leaves me. And I guess that's because I not only work with my stuff, I work with other people's stuff. And so to keep it all separate,
Mhm.
you know, I just jot it down when it comes to me. But mornings are the best time for me. And I don't longhand because the ideas come so fast. I can't write that fast.
I
If
can't.
I do, I'll go back and look at it and like, what was I saying? So I have to type it.
Yeah, I just started using Read Aloud, which is the best app on Word. Have you used it?
I have not. Read
Oh
out.
my goodness. Jonelle, have you used it?
I've not used it, but it sounds
Okay, it's under it says insert, it's under review in Microsoft Word.
okay.
And you can have an English voice, a male voice, whatever is good to your cognitive ear, right? And they will read the whole document for you.
Wow.
It is amazing.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have
Oh,
used,
Janice uses
yeah.
it, huh?
I have used that before, where it's reading your work back to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Iris, you've never used it.
I have it.
Oh, it is wonderful. Yeah, it's a gift. Take it. Yeah, it is a gift. Yeah.
It's a gift.
Audra, it definitely is a gift. Audra, when do you write?
Late, when everyone else is sleeping,
That's me.
I'm up writing. It's quiet. There's nobody. I have my husband in the house. Usually the grandbabies are running around. I gotta wait till everything's quiet. When it's quiet, my mind just goes. And there are times where in the middle of the night, like some others have said, there will be things that come to me that I couldn't think of when I was actually writing, that I get up and I tape it so that I can be able
Bless
to
you.
pull it back, because I can no longer write with, I'm left-handed, so I can no
Okay.
longer write. So I use all kind of equipment that speaks to me, that I can talk to, that'll read for me and all of that. So that's what I do. And my husband laughs at me because we'll be in the car going down the highway and something will hit me. And I'm like, wait, I got to get to, he's talking. I'm like, shut up. I got to write this down. But that's when I write, usually in the dead of night, when everybody's sleeping and it's quiet and it's just me and my thoughts and the word.
So how many
That's when I write
renditions?
my sermons too.
Oh, right. This and I'll say this, I have a very good friend who is one of my spiritual leaders, and she did a sermon on the day I fell in love with Jesus.
Mm.
It made all the difference in my life. And she can't find it.
Oh,
I was like, girl, how you do that? So, what I'm saying is that when you write a sermon, keep track of it, because you don't know who you touched with those few words. I mean, those few words right there, the day I fell in love with Jesus, is just, and the way she presented it. And that could be the one thing that you presented to somebody, and then they come back to you and say, you really, and you say, oh yeah, oh, what's that? And it would be a great book, you know,
Yes.
my journey, my sermon journey. And
Oh,
yeah, and I know you got them all over the place. I'm just saying, you might want to keep track.
no, I actually, I'm OCD when it comes
Okay,
to
so you
things
have it
being
all. Yeah.
it's organized. It has its own folder in my computer. It has its own folder on my tablet.
Okay, good.
Um, Technically, they're all together. I can go back and pull whatever I preached 2 years ago.
I want to
I
tell my
just might
girlfriend to
not
call you.
remember the name of it, but I
So she can
have
get
it.
her sermons together. I'm going to tell her to call you and get some, uh, get it all together on her
Yeah.
desktop. Anyway, yeah, you never know what you're going to write and how it's going to affect somebody. So how many times did you write your rendition in the anthology, Jonelle?
I wrote the first version of it in a creative nonfiction class that I was in last fall, and and actually a year ago last fall, and I wrote about I tried about 2 or 3 different ways to write it, organizing my thoughts. And once I got that done, then I probably on the one that I ended up with that I submitted, I probably changed it about at least 3 times, maybe 4, because I tend to revise a lot. I'm never happy with it, and I'm glad when someone finally takes it away and says you can't. And even then, I was begging Janet. I said, "Can I just make a few revisions?" And she said, "Well, if you get them here fast." So I revise a lot.
Yeah. Iris, how many times did you revise it?
It's an excerpt from one of my projects. I don't know if you can see my board back there.
Right.
When I get ideas, I put them on the board. And so this came from one of those projects. One thing that I have learned as a writer and publisher is if you allow a writer to change their document, they will until the end of time. So
Right.
you have to cut it off. And so I try to do that for myself because I know I can say many things, many different ways. There's nothing wrong with any of them. It's just different, you know? And so I will give myself 1 or 2 times, and then I send it to someone to edit it for me, and I'm done with it. Because, like I said, that process can go on forever. And the more creative the writer is, they revise. So that's why, Jonelle, you do that, is because you're so creative. I have read your stories, every one of them that you've submitted, and they're all awesome. So
Well, thank you.
I can see why someone would have to take it from you because you go on and on and on.
So Audra, tell me. Oh, you didn't hear the question.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, I heard the question.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm not a reviser.
Okay.
So when I sit down to write, it flows. No, I'm a corrector, but I don't revise unless I'm told something doesn't sound quite right. It needs to be built out or it needs to, but I just straight write. And then I let others come to me and say where they don't understand something. That lets me know that it wasn't clear. It was clear in my head, but it wouldn't be clear in their head because they weren't there. So yeah.
So
So
that's
I'm
that
not much,
technical writing between you and
yeah.
Iris. Yeah. Yeah, that's the technical portion. Right. I understand. I think I wrote mine 5 times, I'll tell you. And then I was going to call her and say, I don't want to do it. Right. Because I don't do well writing personal, something that personal to you. But when you have to get it out, you have to get it out. I thought that was a great way to get it out. So thank you. And I'm going to segue that into how long have you known Janis? Now she's like 7 degrees to Kevin Bacon, right? Right? I mean, really. Because her tentacles are so wide and it goes through so many states and national and international. Tell me how you met and what she means to you right now in your life. Jonelle.
Well, I was working on an autobiographical story as an independent project working under Professor Larry Foley at the University of Arkansas, who was in the journalism department. And it was about my family, and it was about, my grandparents and my mother and my father and my brother and all the people that had shaped my life. And he said, he said, you need to meet this woman named Janis Kearney. And he said, she writes memoirs and sometimes she teaches workshops and you need to meet her. And so I immediately went back and Googled her name and found out that she indeed was involved with these read, write, share workshops. And so I attended the first one. I'm trying to think of what year it was. It was when we were at the Rockefeller Center.
It was
And
2016 or 17.
A long time ago. 216.
Yes. And I don't know. I walked in the room and I remember she greeted me like she had known me forever, you know, and I just, I don't know, she continues to be someone that you know believes in you, and you feel like she's like your sister, or
part of your family. Yeah.
yes, she's
Yeah.
your family, and
Yeah.
there's just something about her energy and her heart that's always out there for everybody to see.
And
And
that's probably good and bad on her part, because I just feel like I can call her anytime I want to. She's my sister. I can call her anytime I want. So go ahead, Jonelle. I'm sorry.
so that's I don't know. It's nice to know that somebody believes in you like that, and she encourages writers. And but that's how I met her. And I remember going back to Larry and saying, you know, Janis says hi. And I don't know that. And then I've been to every read, write, share since then. So whether they were online or in person.
Yeah. Good. Iris?
So I moved back to Arkansas from North Carolina in 2014. And I remember I was working at an insurance company and I was telling one of my colleagues, so like, where are all the writers in Arkansas? I know they're here. Where are they? I can't find them. And so she said, you should you should contact Janis Kearney. She could probably, point you in the right direction. And so unlike Jonelle, who was very smart, I didn't look Janis up. I just took the email and I sent her an email, which, looking back on it, that probably was the Lord's way of keeping me protected, because had I known who she was,
you would have done that.
I mean, totally
Right.
intimidated.
Yeah.
So I sent her a little email. I don't even know what I said, and I'm sure I still have it. And she came back and she said, oh, I don't think there's anything I can do or whatever. And so my little bubble was burst. And I said, oh, but thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. And I don't know if she was testing me to see if I was going to, give up real easy. And so she came back and she invited me to come speak at the writers group that Jonelle, you may have been there. I'm not sure. But I came, I showed up, and she even paid me. And I was like, oh, but the thing about Janis, number one, she's consistent. I mean, she's always sweet, always generous. But the thing that she has taught me that I pay it forward is she's a publisher. And for her to help me, another publisher, was just, it blew my mind. It's like, who does that? But it reminded me of, the thing that what God has for you is yours.
Absolutely.
And no one else can take it. So why not help?
Why not?
So now I give so much information away, and people around me who know what I do say, why are you doing that? You shouldn't do that. It's like, no, I want to help them, because someone helped me when they didn't have to, and so I will always be grateful to Janis for that. I do feel like she's a sister, a friend, and I just love her so much. And I try not to bother her, but I could just being in her presence is just, it's amazing.
It's a calming spirit.
It is. It is so excitable, and she's so calm. So it helps to be around her.
I remember we were at the book festival, and at one point, and I don't know when that was, I just went and sat beside her because I thought, I just need that energy to just calm me down. Something had happened. Something happens when you get a big event, right? And she just kind of looked at me and she said, "You okay?" I said, "I am now." Just that calming spirit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Audra, how'd you meet her?
Back in 2003, there's a
Oh,
mutual friend we have,
okay.
and I was looking for someone. At the time, I was in academia, and I was working with women who had not been back to school, women returning to school
Okay.
who didn't have the high hopes. This is when her book Cotton Fields of Dreams came out.
Oh, yeah.
And our mutual friend told me to call her and ask her if she would do it. Oh, she'll do it, she'll do it. I didn't know who she was, but I working in the college arena, you call anybody and everybody if they can help. And
Right.
I called her and had a conversation, which she think about coming to Pittsburgh to speak to a group of women about her story, to let them know that even though they feel like they're nothing, that they can too make it to a higher realm. They just have to be encouraged. I didn't expect her to, after I did look her up and start reading about her, I'm like, oh, this woman ain't coming here
Well, I said,
to work with us lowly folks.
And
But she agreed to come. We
uh,
welcomed her. And that's when I met her and fell in love with her. She's been a very, very inspirational person. When I went to Chicago, she was there. And I think that was the most awful speech I had ever done. But I had got invited to St. Paul to do a speech for the graduates there after I had published working on women returning to school and technology. And I was so nervous because I had never really spoken in front of a crowd of people, and it didn't come out right. But Janis did show up. She gave me the moral support. She showed up, and I've loved her ever since. So I, like you, think of her as my big sister, my confidant and my advisor when it comes to writing. And I'll call her in a panic, and she always just calms me down and says everything will work out. So yeah, that's how we met.
And so she came to this little town called New Smyrna. Now, I don't know whether because New Smyrna is in the Bible, because this place is little. And she was invited by another friend of mine to do to have the children in the community do a book about legacy people in a weekend.
wow.
Right. And we pulled that thing off. And those kids had their book, they had their name on it, they sold it and got money to go on a trip. And I thank you, Janis, because those children who are grown now, this is years ago, right? They said, Miss Donna, you remember when that lady came? I still have my book, right? With their name on it, right? So it was really an experience that those children will never forget. So I thank you, Janis. And we've been friends ever since. And I don't know what year that was. It was a long time. The kids are now grown. That's how long ago it was. And so I just, we're getting late in the hour. Is there anything else you would like to share? And then I always want our guests to give us a pearl of wisdom. Iris, can you tell the audience how to get copies of the anthology? I didn't write any of that down. You could do that in your parting words. If there's anything else you'd like to discuss with us, and I need a pearl of wisdom from you for the audience.
Okay. The anthology can be purchased. Janis, you'll have to send me that email because I don't have it in front of me. Just send the email to the Read Write Share email, and we can purchase the anthology that way. Is it available on Amazon?
I haven't looked yet. I'm not sure.
I'll verify that.
Okay.
And the pearl of wisdom, I guess for me, my little tagline, my slogan is that your story matters. I've met a lot of people that don't know that, don't believe that. But when my mom passed, one of my sisters gave me her some of her old purses, some of her old scarves and sweaters, and I was just going through it frantically trying to find something. And I found only thing I found, she had wrapped 4 pennies in tissue paper. And I, for months and months and months, I'm like, what does this mean? What does this mean? And it didn't mean anything. I just wanted it to mean something because I didn't have anything of her like that. Because, you know, like I said, it was a children are seen and not heard, and you don't talk to children. So I didn't have that with her. And so one reason why I wrote it, I wrote I wrote my memoir is because I wanted my children to have something
Something.
left behind from me. You know, I do talk to them because I did not want my relationship with my mom to be my legacy. So we talk about everything. Sometimes they tell me stuff I'd rather not know.
Don't tell me. No.
So my pearl of wisdom is that your story does matter. Even if you don't think that it does, it matters. Because number one, it's a record of your life. You don't want anyone else to tell it. You want to be able to tell it. Other people may try, but let your record be there as well.
It's a footprint.
It is definitely a footprint, and you be the people who are left behind.
Yeah.
Will appreciate it very much. You know, my children, not only did I do the memoir for them, but I did the children's books for each one of my grandchildren. And my oldest granddaughter, she's 20, and she still talks about her birthmark book, you know. And so, yeah, that's it. Just
it makes a difference.
Don't wait, do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Jonelle, anything else you'd like to share? Oh, I'll say that at the end.
Okay.
Thank you. Jonelle, anything else you'd like to share? And we need a pearl of wisdom.
I would like to say that they sort of go together, but to love the process of writing and don't worry about the end. You know, love the process of when you're actually writing, and remember that it's your story. You know, I think a lot of people can say, oh, well, because we all have our own versions of different things that happen to us, but kind of write from your heart, you know, and that's what I think is important, to know it's your story and write from your heart and do it because you love to write.
Thank you for that. Okay, Ms. Walker, you're last but not least. Give us a pearl of wisdom.
My pearl of wisdom is your story is your testimony. Do not be afraid to tell it, because your story may be the thing that someone needs to help them along the way. So that's always been my motto is, you know, a lot of us are afraid, that we're ashamed, we're embarrassed by our stories, but you know, those are the stories that can be that can release somebody's spirit to know they were not the only one.
Yeah, it's amazing the things that you think people are going to get from your book is really amazing when they find out that it's totally somebody left field. There's one chapter in my book where I talk about having an abortion, and so I thought, it's 1 page, 2 pages, who's going? But that 300 pages is the book, right? And I must get an email a week about how people were affected, about thinking about had it happened to them, or they were with a girlfriend, and how you never forget it, right? And they never thought about just writing it and lighting a match to it, because sometimes that's what you have to do to get things done, right? So you just never know who you're going to touch. And Janis, thank you for being our octopus, because without your tentacles, we all never would have met. And we appreciate you as a friend, as a publisher, as a confidant, in more ways than you will ever know. And in order to get a copy of the book, it's www.wowpublishing.org, www.wowpublishing.org, and www.rwsweekend.org. And we'll put that in the YouTube so everybody will have a copy of that when it goes up on YouTube. In the next 30 minutes, you guys are going to be worldwide on the World Wide Web. So get ready. And thank you for being here this evening. And when the lights go out and the cell phone towers go down, all you have left is a flashlight and a good book. So thank you, ladies, for being here on Zoom and on the
Thank you.
conversation. Thank you.
Thank
Good night,
you.
everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Good
You guys
night.
did so
Bye.
great. It was wonderful.
Love your kitty cat. So cute.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Hi.
Meet.